It's,
Okay. Yeah, they took recording off and they have it under more. The upgrade
it's
to
not mine.
Zoom, the upgrade to Zoom today.
That's an upgrade?
Yeah, I guess so. But I spent,
Usually it comes up.
yeah, I know.
I didn't, well, mine came up, but they didn't ask me if I wanted the upgrade.
Maybe if I expanded my screen more. And then, right, and then it shows. I spent almost 2 hours on the phone with the Paul Fisher's new partner, Juried Art Services, going over all the stuff that they're doing. I guess Teresa left. Because there's been, you saw the thread on the NAIA forum?
No,
Oh, yeah, their artists are complaining that you can't change the order of the images on Juried Art Services.
so
Well, now you can. Well, you will be able to in a couple of weeks. But
there's a way around that, you know.
what?
There's a way around that.
There wasn't really a way around it because you could choose which order to upload them, and sometimes they would be in that order and sometimes they wouldn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's all
Then
going to
start
get
again.
fixed. It's all going to get fixed. It's part of the modernizing the website and upgrading the code.
I haven't been to that site in a long time.
Well, you don't apply to those shows.
Yeah,
When are you
I
going to
only
send
use
me?
it for
When are you going to send me pictures, Barry?
Hey, listen, good question. I had a really great firing this week.
Okay, so
And
you'll have better
so-
pieces
instead
coming
of
up.
sending you the ones I'm going to send you, I'm going to start taking pictures when we get off the phone. And tomorrow I'll send you pictures.
Okay,
Yeah, because it's getting close to the time when I need them, when we need them.
yeah. I kind of go back to the survey, Larry, but it's in the email from today from Sam.
the survey from Zap.
Yeah, it says learn about SAP latest updated, share your feedback, meet up
Oh,
with team
right.
members.
Okay, yeah, that's why I ignored it. It said latest updates.
Yeah, but it's in there.
Okay. Is that the same survey about bringing minorities into the system?
Maybe.
You know, if there's nothing wrong,
What?
if there's nothing wrong, why fix it?
Well, depends on who you ask. If there's anything wrong.
Worked
I
for
mean-
me.
I mean, in 2009, which was 14 years ago, they flew me out there as a consultant and I went over all the issues artists were having with their websites and they never fixed a single thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So,
well, then
Okay,
they
bye.
they consulted an expert. So they didn't need to do anything after that. They didn't, they consulted with you.
I mean, I put together a PowerPoint presentation on
Well,
things that they could
What a
improve,
guy.
showing them how they could be improved.
well, see, they consulted with an expert.
And I left them the PowerPoint presentation. I'll bet you nobody ever looked at it. So, all right. So
I've never
quiet.
heard such sustained silence in this group ever before.
I know. How come it's so quiet?
Because I'm not talking.
Hey, Ron, let's hear about the money.
The money, like what money? That would be nice to see that again. Yeah. mean, how has everybody's show year been going this year? Would you, overall, would you,
There's only two people on this group that do shows. So far, besides you, so far.
Mhm.
well, in general,
I was saying,
even with Katie, what are you seeing with your groups that you work with and those like convention things you go to? They
Well,
all,
Comic-Con's main problem is the person at the art show has everything he has ready, but he's being blocked by the office who isn't ready. So he can't finish things on his end because they won't give him the information he needs.
that's not
So,
good.
yeah, so that's a constant thing. And he said overall rough estimate is sales were up 30% this year.
Wow, that's good, right?
Yeah. So
It depends on who you ask.
well, that's the guy that oversaw everything at the art show. So
If you're a Republican, it's a disaster and the United States is going to hell. If it's a Democrat, it's the best year ever.
well,
Which is actually closer to the, it's actually
very
true.
left. The other things I've been doing are what they call trunk shows. So just sort of set up and go, da da da, here's what I got, and then pack it all up and leave. I've done a couple of classes.
Yeah, it looks like it's your
So,
map.
Where's Allison?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Allison says,
Yes.
Allison is saying Idaho right now, or someplace
Oh,
between
yeah,
Idaho and-
yeah. Or Sun Valley or one of those. And Bend is next weekend.
No, she don't have nothing
actually,
this
that
weekend.
was my intention originally, but my retoucher ignored that for some reason.
So she's not doing anything this weekend. She was doing the same split that I got waitlisted. So she have Park City, Sun Valley, then High Desert, and there are in the Pearl, and then she's going to San Luis. That's her schedule.
Not a bad schedule.
What?
It's not a bad schedule.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Looks like
It's
the ball itself was added to the piece.
I got waitlisted to every single one of those shows. So
Do you ever get called off the wait list when you're on those shows, or?
I mean, I looked at the pictures.
I got called listed from out of the Pearl, but I was not going to drive from here
I
to
mean, it was better showing
Portland for just one show.
Yeah. Long way to go.
It's not, yeah, it's financially it's too high risk
Yeah,
to do
just
it.
for one.
No.
Just for one. I told that if I would have got into something else,
Okay.
I would be happy to do it because I want to test my stuff in that market.
Okay.
So you've never been out there before?
I've been for BAM, from the one with the Belleville.
Good luck.
But other than that, I don't done it that much in that area. So, but I was thinking about it after later on. If I can stay over here, how things are right now, even if I make less money, it's probably better to be near home than month away in the road, because that whole area is not cheap neither to stay over there. So that's a concern that I have in my head. But we see right now, today Uptown sent pictures of the artists in the show, and you start looking at the booth and the people in that showing in there, and you can tell that the quality has gone down considerably.
What show?
It's not the Uptown, because they send the email from all the pictures. The photographer was taking pictures of everybody at the show. And you go booth to booth, looking around, and then nothing in there says like, "Oh wow, that looks really good," or "That wow, that's really impressive."
Is that the same photographer from St. Joe?
No, thank God not. No. But the guy has his, you know, the big difference, the guy has his thing to say, Uptown Fair staff right in front of him. You know, what,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that show started going downhill when all the booths started getting broken into at night, and a lot of artists
Yeah.
stopped coming back.
I wouldn't do it.
Right.
You know, it's a shame because I didn't have no problems. I didn't hear anybody breaking into the, well, yes, I hear one somebody in the mall again. But it's, I just, I don't think that, or they don't care, or I don't
Well,
know what to say to them.
they say they hire security, but they don't have enough security, or they're positioned in the wrong places.
Yeah, to me, what they had to do, really, honestly, is just fence the mall. Just
I
fence it.
mean, you know, if the show was only on the mall or only on the street, they wouldn't have the problems. But it's so
It
spread
just,
out.
yeah. And the mall doesn't have enough space. They will lose a lot of spaces. They just do it in the mall, though. They can
Yeah.
probably get away.
Well, gee, you know, what's
Yeah.
wrong with that?
Because the reality from what you're describing, Oscar, is that if the artist and Larry too, if the artists are turning away from the show's going down the toilet. So they have to, it seems like they have to do something to try to make the show, to fix the problems that the show has. If it's put it just on the mall, if it means putting up fencing to keep more security at night, have more roving security at night, they have to do those things. If they don't, as the artists turn away, the good artists turn away, the show just, like you're describing, it goes down, it goes down, it goes down, and there's no stopping that. And then the people that come to the show see lower and lower quality, and they start turning away because it's a no-win scenario.
Aren't there two other shows in Minneapolis that weekend?
There used to be.
Yeah. Loring Park is the week before now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Edina is much earlier.
You can do Powderhorn also, but
Yeah.
Powderhorn isn't, I don't know. I just know the Powderhorn is in a worse area than Uptown. So I don't heard anything about that show lately. So, but that's another alternative. It's not just do Loring Park and Powderhorn, but then you go into two shows that, in my mind, are fillers. They're not standalone shows.
Well, didn't they used to years ago shuttle people between when they had all three of those shows on the same weekend, Powderhorn and the other two? Did they shuttle people between the three shows?
I don't think that they're doing that anymore. Especially Loring Park is a totally different weekend, and I'm going to tell you, I think that Loring Park is more established now than before. You can make more money in there, but this it's not. I said it last time. It's not the potential is there, but there's no enough high-end buyers, and they don't have enough traffic to make it a good low-end show. Like if you're selling items in between $100 and $700, they don't have enough buyers for you to make it worth it because they have too many booths as it is. They fill up the park quite a bit now. It's like they can get away. It's nothing as bad in Cindy. It's just they have to make money somehow, and the people coming behind them, it's all about the money. So I'm really thinking next year just stay at home and do two shows with Amy instead. That's how bad it is. But
Not a good choice.
yeah, you know, this is the way I see it. If you're going to suffer just to scrape and buy a few $1,000s, might as well scrape and buy staying at home, you know?
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's basically what I'm seeing it. But, you know, the problem with Amy that she advertised to the same people over and over, and she's not bringing new buyers. And
I
and
don't
the
know.
other thing,
Does she advertise?
I personally I never see it. I'm going to say that. I only see the stuff in Facebook and the email that she sent to me. But once again, why are you sending me an email to me? You know, so doesn't make any sense. But you know, I don't know. That's another one that I scratch my head all the time.
I mean, I'm not saying that what she's doing is wrong. It's just that who knows where to advertise nowadays?
Well, that's what she says to most people, and that's a valid point. You don't know where to put the money for advertising. Should you putting all the money in social media? Should you putting all the money in TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram? Should you put the money in newspaper and back to the news to pick up a promotion for the show? You know, we don't know because everybody's consuming things differently now. It's not like 10 years ago. Like now everybody is different. Everybody, you gotta, there are people that don't have TV, they don't watch TV. And then now it's like it used to be rare, but now it's normal. So
But
it's
I'd ask Frank, who's experienced with that it's one thing to put out advertisements anywhere. And Amy claims she gets hundreds of thousands of people to a show, but to use YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, you still have to know how to effectively use that to draw the kinds of people that you want to an art show in this case, which is people that of all different areas that want to buy art. It's not just putting an ad out, I don't think, on social media. It's focusing it to bring in certain kinds of people. I don't think most promoters, would you agree, Frank?
Well, one of the benefits of actually advertising on Facebook is that you can get very granular and you know exactly who sees the ad. That's one of Facebook's selling points, as it is with Google. I'm not familiar with, since Instagram's owned by Facebook, I would assume they have the same data. So you can be fairly precise in a way that you can't with the newspaper, right? If you put an ad in a newspaper, everybody who sees the newspaper opens that page, sees the ad. If they don't open the page, they don't see it. You have no idea. You know how many people bought the newspaper, maybe. So that's the advantage of advertising through social media, is that they actually have ways to understand the interests of the people who are being shown the ads, and you can pay them to filter for you,
Which is great. Most people, I think that's one of the reasons you have so many customers, is that most people don't know how to do that, including show promoters. They don't know how to get that granularity, to get that focus, to define who it is that they're even going after.
Well, one would hope that they have some idea. Obviously, there are some promoters are much better than others, but I don't know. I have a client who is a show promoter, not for craft. He has done antiques for years, and he's been doing food shows in the last couple of years.
How about the artists using their mailing lists?
Fair enough. He does not seem to have any luck with any form of advertising in the last couple of years. But he hates technology. So I don't know that he knows how to ask the right questions of the people who are setting the ads up properly.
Yeah, because it's one thing for somebody to set up an ad for him. It's another thing for it to work correctly to reach
Right.
seems the right people.
But he's 80 years old.
Yeah.
One would hope that people in their 60s and 50s would be a little more sophisticated about it.
Well, and Larry, when you were saying about emails, what was your point there?
Well, if the artists use their own mailing list, and all the artists advertise to everybody they've sold to, what do you think?
Well, that's what I do. That's what Allison does. But everybody get upset about it because they think that it should be the promoter's job to advertise the show. And
Right.
I think it's a combination of everybody putting the effort, you know.
Well, right. It has to be everybody.
You know, it's not just one person or one.
I mean,
you know.
I'll never forget the time Longs Park asked the artist to send them their mailing list, and they would mail out the postcards. And they sent out the postcards too late, and everybody got their postcard after the show was over.
Geez. Yeah.
So,
But the other thing too, I think that makes it kind of, at least for me, love to be talked out of this attitude, but it's like if I promote that I'm going to be at a given art show, like say I was going to promote I was going to be at Uptown, how many photographers are Uptown? And before they ever get to my booth, how many photographers are they going to walk by? And what's the likelihood they're still going to be interested in my work by the time they walk by all these other booths and get to me?
Well, the answer to that is if they buy your work before, and you send an email and they really have it in their mind, they're going to come to see you. So they're going to see if you have they're going to see your stuff. They might not buy it, but they're going to compare what you have.
they'll come and say hello.
Else.
They'll stop and say hello.
Yeah. Well, that's the other part. But
all advertising's a gamble, Ron. No matter how good you do it or how bad you do it. I mean, the worse you do it, the worse a gamble. But if you did it impeccably, it's a gamble.
Well, also though, if everybody just sends to their email list, that doesn't mean they're getting new people in.
Right. That's right. These are people that have already bought.
Yeah.
Right, but it's always easier to sell to somebody who's already bought than somebody who's never bought.
The goal is to get new people, new buyers. It doesn't necessarily do anything unless you take them from somebody else, you know, like they're taking from you.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's one of the things that affects a lot of shows is that they don't broaden or they don't reach out to bring in new people to the shows in addition to those that have come before. You're defining a much smaller audience that's already been tested. It's not growing. And I think businesses of any kind, don't they have to grow their businesses? They have to get new people to come in, walking through the door of their store to see what they have. Otherwise, they stagnate and then they start to go backwards. And that's why I think shows need to get more experts involved with trying to figure out how to expand. Like in art shows, I don't know of very many promoters. I look at the shows like Des Moines, Iowa, again, out in the middle of Iowa, and St. Louis and the Plaza, and a lot of these shows that continually have well-attended shows of buyers of art. How do they do that? Are they just in magical little places in America? Or is it that they have figured, pardon?
Reputations.
But reputation by getting what? People to come buy art, right?
Well, but it's built over 40 and 50 years.
But there's been shows out there for that long that are not anywhere close.
About the director.
They were never there to begin with.
It's about the director.
They had
You
to
have a good director, you have a good show. You have a bad director, it goes downhill. If
Well,
you
what-
hire an event, yeah, if you hire an event coordinator as opposed to somebody with an art background, it's the beginning of the end.
Oh, so you screw it because that's what they're hiring every single show now.
Or a
And
gallery owner.
not every single one, not the ones that I want to do. But you're right. You
Well,
know, when I see that, when I read a thing, oh, we just hired them from a, from they're an event director. I mean, they know how to put on an event, but they have nothing. But they have no clue as to our needs. We have specific needs. We're not like it's not a cookie cutter thing.
So you wish you can clone Cindy Lyric.
basically, Cindy or Ken, any of those guys, the guy
Stephen
with
King.
Cherry Creek also.
Yeah.
But
Um,
the problem is it's like
Mhm.
anything else. The ego of the promoters, especially with the young kids, is that they don't want to listen to the people who have done it before. Also comes that what Kurt said before is that they have all the information, but they don't want to use it, or they don't want to read it. They think they know everything, and they don't want to see anything. They only do the show. They see how many people came to the show, and that's the only thing that matters to them. They don't ask if the artist did well or how many artists will come back again to the show.
Yeah, and the
You know-
frustrating thing about that, exactly what you're saying, is if they walked their own show throughout the course of the weekend that the show was held and looked at it themselves to see if it was working, wouldn't a lot of that start to come clear to them that, oh, there's lots of
No.
people here, but nobody's carrying
No,
artwork?
no,
No.
they have to talk to the artists.
No, they walk through the show and pat themselves on the back because they did a great job. Because they talked to the one person who has knickknacks who sold a lot because they attracted that customer and they think they did a great
Yeah,
did a
like
great job.
Howard Allen once said to me, never tell a promoter you're having a bad show.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because as soon as you said that you have a bad show or you're not having a good show, I can tell you, it's all you. I can tell you that. That was my experience
Yeah,
with
the
Paragon.
promoter should say why.
I'm always honest. I always tell them if I'm having a bad show. I
Right.
don't care. I don't care. If they get rid of me because he's having a bad show, well,
Yeah.
too bad.
Yeah, Howard
So I
did
do
that to
another
me
show.
once. He did
Out
that
of
to
the
me once
1,000
at
shows.
Shadyside. He asked me how I was doing, and I told him the truth.
And it's funny because when I'm telling them, it's because I've talked to a bunch of people around me, so I know how
Just
they're
you.
doing too.
Yeah, it's not just you, it's a clump of artists around you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, if it is me, I want I want to feel better by having it be everybody.
Yeah. But see, when promoters just grab hold of what one artist has done and they point to that, oh, well, that person's having a really good show. Great. You can always have one or two artists having a great show. The strength of the show isn't measured by one or two artists. It's measured by how the majority of artists there are doing, isn't it? Am I missing something?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
basically,
the reason
a
why
great
Greg
show.
Lawler always dropped the top 5% and the bottom 5%. He didn't include them in his rankings.
Oh, Greg Lawler in his
Yeah.
first book.
Yeah, that's the only thing he ever did right.
One of the few, I would agree.
Yeah.
wow.
Well,
Ouch,
I think
Larry.
I think it's
No.
great that he exists. I think it's great that people
No,
follow
I
that
mean-
because
No, I mean,
the only way is through word of mouth.
right. If it wasn't for Greg, we wouldn't know about those Cherry Creeks and shows like.
Oh, you're being sarcastic, right?
No, I'm being truthful.
That's
Why do you think they get
ridiculous. That's not-
2,500 applications?
You want to know something? After the very first Cherry Creek, the day after, everybody knew it was fantastic, and it had nothing to do with Greg Lawler.
No, I know, but not 2,500 applications worth.
Oh yeah, I disagree. Again, I disagree. I'm telling you, everybody knew, and wasn't that before? That was before the internet. So I mean, I'm telling you, everybody knew.
Yeah, and there was
I knew.
that Harris list that was out there.
Right, Harris Rhodes
I
report.
never looked at that.
Yeah.
Just
then-
the top shows.
Yeah, they were, but they were mostly artists, a lot of artists that were in NIA management. They were just, it was kind of a biased sample because it was sampling a lot of the people that got into the good shows to ask, well, how'd you do? But all these other artists, you know, it's like,
My my two favorite ratings were Sunshine Artist and Art Fair Insider, because they always got it wrong, and I loved it. I totally
at
loved
least
it.
it was consistent, right? So you could.
I don't
pick
want
the
I don't want
opposite.
people knowing what the good shows are. You know what? I used to do reviews at Art Fair Insider until, you know, I'd give a really great review, and then the next year a gazillion people would apply and I wouldn't get in. So I learned that lesson.
Well, but it's a great point you bring up because to me, it's one of the things that shows some of the insanity of promoters, always has since I started doing shows. Why would we, as business people, want to tell everybody else we had a great show?
That's
What's that
right.
going to do for us personally? Well, it's going to increase the number of people, just like you're saying, Barry, that apply for the same show that we're in and reduce our chances of getting back in the show. What sense does that make at all?
Now, if we got extra credit, like an extra point for everybody that we brought into to apply, then okay, I'd do that. Like
Yeah,
like a
right.
referral service, you know, you like
Right.
get a
How'd you hear about this show?
Right.
we talk, you know, we talk. I mean, it's
Hey.
serious. We all talk.
I should be getting money from Pro Panels and Trimline.
That's right. You know,
Yeah.
that's right.
You really should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you should call them up.
Oh, don't say that to them.
Let's call them up and tell them you'll settle if they give you a you know, one of their booths, and then you can give it to one of us. We'll flip a coin.
Well, that's an interesting little path.
I just bought a mini
Made it up.
desk from Pro Panels.
I had one a long time ago.
And the mini desk is 16 inches square. I bought it to put next to my treadmill because it's 42 inches high and I could put my whatever,
Drinks.
my coffee on it and the TV remote.
Yeah. Well, that's a good
And
use
plus,
of
when artists come to my house, it's really cool. They see I decorate with Pro Panels.
it.
Oh,
That's right. And take a picture of that and send it to the Pro Panel people and say,
Here,
I
put this in your
deserve one.
gallery, right?
No. Who knows? You might get something.
I
You
have
never-
my dining room cordoned off with Pro Panels with their crossbar. And I have somebody make me fabric that went through the crossbar.
Seriously?
What?
Seriously? If I came
Yeah,
to your
because
house
my
now,
dining room is not, it's a storage closet.
yeah. So if I came to your house, I'd see a Pro Panels up. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
I've been to your house. That was probably
Yeah.
afterwards.
no, but you weren't looking for it.
That's true. That's right.
You know, plus I have 5 panels in my living room where my studio is that I photograph artwork on. And I bought extensions for those panels so I could photograph 8 feet off the ground. And I photographed 8-foot quilts.
Yeah, I want one of those $1,500 to $2,500 accordion tents.
well, I was
Oscar wants a new trim line.
yeah, I was talking to him before we started. I was looking at the price I wanted to upgrade my tent to a 10 by 15.
Yeah.
And the upgrade will cost me it's going to be $1,500 before shipping. A brand new 10 costs $1,900 for a 10 by 10.
What kind of tent?
Trim line.
It's the trim line.
Why don't you buy one
So-
of those half booths from them that you can attach when you want to use a 15-foot booth, but otherwise you don't attach it and use it as a 10-foot booth.
Yeah, but he goes up 8 feet.
9 feet.
I don't
Fine.
think that matters. I don't think that matters to them, does it? They'll
Yeah,
build it.
it's the upgrade to make it 10 by 15, one solid 10. It's 1,500. So
No,
assuming that you want the half 10, like you're saying, that's going
Yeah.
to be another at least $1,000.
Yeah, but you only have to, it seems like it's a lot more flexible. I'd sure ask them about a price on it just to make sure, because even if it goes down to maybe 800, 900, it's still gonna be cheaper than what you're paying for a 10 by 15.
I
So
suggest
then
you
I'll
just
just
buy a new
upgrade it.
tent.
Pardon?
No,
I
okay,
suggest,
let me just
I
let me break it down.
suggest
brand
you
new
buy a new
tent.
15-foot tent and then have the other one as a backup.
You can't do
A
that.
brand new tent costs $2,000. A 10 by 10. A 10 by 15 brand new costs $3,000. A 10 by 20 brand new costs $4,000. If I
Why?
can go back and double check, but that's how much it was costing.
But
Why?
if you go to 10 by 15, doesn't that keep you out of some shows that only have
Well, he
10
should,
by 10 spaces?
yes and no. Remember Lance Munn? He always had a 10 by 15 tent, and he would just turn a tent sideways.
He'd have stores behind his booth with that.
Right.
The way I've seen it though is that they have tents back to back, so you wouldn't be able to do
Well, right. And for that, see, that's why I suggested he buy the second tent. And then he'd always have a backup. If the wind destroyed one, he'd still be able to do a show the next weekend.
Yeah, because at that point, that's what I was thinking. Also, I was telling him, like Larry before, for $500 more, I just buy a brand new 10 and just do a 10 by 20. Because if you buy a 10 by 15, you're going to buy a 10 by. You have to buy a 10 by 20 double booth space.
Do you need a 10 by 20?
I just don't want to set up a 10 by 20.
No, I mean, you do. I would do a 10 by 15 and just have awnings for the sides and hang on.
That's what I'm
the side.
thinking. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm thinking. But that upgrade is going to cost me $1,500.
Yeah, but
plus
15-foot booth is a lot more flexible than a 20-foot booth.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just going to just do the upgrade the kit and just pay the extra money to get it done. But that's something that I'm not going to do now. I'm going to do it. I told him I will do it in November when I'm done with the show for this year. And also depends what shows I get in next year. If I don't get into Coconut Grove, I'm not going to go with a 10 by. Like Coconut Grove is the show that I would like to have a double space.
Hey, you can always get a trailer that you set your work up inside the trailer and back it into your space.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I will have to be the first one to get in there and the last one to get out of there.
Right, but you wouldn't have to pack up or break down. Everything would you just leave it.
Let's see, who's the artist that does that?
Well, I know a couple.
There was one.
George, what's his name, from Connecticut? He was a sculptor. He set up one of those trailers. There's a jeweler from Maryland who's doing it now. And there was a cartoonist that used to do Howard Allen shows that would just back his trailer into a space. And I think there was one other, Joaquin something or other.
Joaquin Mill. Yeah.
Well, his is different. It's like an outhouse.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is.
How does that get past the juries as
He's first of all, he's really good. And secondly, he's a funny guy because we always, like, if I'm next to him, it's just a laugh riot the whole time. So he's got a personality. Everybody likes him.
Yeah.
But I think it fits. Listen, when he first started having that tent, people took notice and thought it was really a smart idea. So,
Yeah,
you know, and in some ways it is. It's just a little small.
A little small. Phew, man, I just saw it earlier this year or last fall, and it was like you can't fit more than one or two people in at a time. It's insane.
yeah, but if your work is expensive enough, that doesn't matter.
Yeah. So here, the prices for the trim line, I'm talking a 10 by 10, 9 foot tall. A 10 by 10 is 1900. The 10 by 15 brand new is 2800. The 10 by 20, it's not that much more. I would think it was more. It's only 3000, 3100 basically.
I would just
So
buy a 10 by 15 if I were you.
yeah,
And
I'm thinking the
have
10 by
your
15.
10 by 10 for smaller shows.
Or
I
you
think
say
we should
buy a
all-
brand new one, or you thinking just upgrade it?
No, I would buy a brand new one so you have two tents. Otherwise,
Okay.
if your tent gets destroyed in a storm, you have to get on the waiting list to have a new tent built for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
Barry's tired.
I am. I've already fallen asleep once.
Yeah,
I think
I told you not to be going out late at night and running naked like always. They
yeah, well,
always call me. The police at Marquette calls me in the morning asking me if I know this guy, and I say, yeah, this is Sandro. Just drop him in the bed,
see,
and then he wake up in the morning, doesn't know what happened to him.
you know why that isn't true? Because the cops on Marquette all know me anyway, so they wouldn't be asking Oscar anything. Small town.
Oh,
I think we should just be able to pull our vans up and open the sides and sell out of that. The sides
Well-
in the back.
That's the way, what do you call it? South Haven, Michigan, when it was a one-day show.
Really?
Yeah, you used to be able to park behind your booth.
Yeah.
It made life so easy.
Yeah, Mardi Gras down in Florida used to have that too when they were on that road outside the mall on the
You can
exterior.
still do it. You can park.
Can you now
there's-
at the new location?
Yeah, in the inside.
Yeah, uptown. I was backed up against the railroad tracks on the mall, the first
Yeah.
block. And I used to park my truck on the other side of the railroad tracks. It was like 8 feet behind my booth. And I didn't have to move it for the whole show.
Just had to wait for the train to go by to get to your car.
Yeah, train never went by during the show. Unless it went through in the middle of the night. Who knows? That's like Winter Park also had that.
Yeah, well, I probably still do.
Yeah, remember that, was
The
it 2
train's
years
coming
ago, a
through.
trailer got clipped?
Really? By
Yeah,
a train?
yeah.
You. I think that's why maybe it's St. Louis that you're not allowed to have an awning, or you have to take it down at night because the you know the service or the garbage guys come through and
Hey,
uh,
there's a tent that had a built-in awning part of the roof. And there was a lady that used that tent, and 2 shows in a row, the garbage truck took out her booth and her neighbor's booth.
yeah.
You know, it's the same thing with those display panels that have the feet that stick out into either your booth or your neighbor's booth. I can't understand why they would design something that it would have to go outside your 10 by 10.
yeah.
They expect you to have it in the middle of your lawn, not
Well,
a-
I mean, whenever I see those panels up for sale or people talk about having them, I always say throw the feet away and just use cable ties to connect your panels. Because all they were for is connecting the panels at the bottom.
Maybe for trade shows?
No, they were sold for art shows.
No?
But, you know, this is before the days of everybody using pro panels or mesh walls.
Hey, let's bring back the days where nobody had a tent.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what they
no.
called,
No,
they
that-
used,
That's not happening.
I know.
they called the shows clothesline shows because people used to hang their artwork from the clothesline with, what do you call it? The spring clothesline clips.
Hey, my favorite is 2 ladders and a board and boards. So you'd
Or-
have
Or pegboard.
the shelves.
needed
Oh, yeah,
racks.
pegboard. Yeah, that was always fun.
Comic Con uses pegboards for the panel. 4x4. So,
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I still have my booth picture from 1978 where I had pegboard.
February was great back then when I started.
Yeah,
You
just
know.
don't get it wet.
Yep.
It falls
That's
apart.
the only problem. So, oh my goodness. But so what show you doing this weekend, Ron?
Lubznik Center for the Arts up in Michigan City, shores of Lake Erie. Or I'm sorry, Lake Michigan. Like whatever. Yeah. How about you?
I'm going to Lexington, Kentucky.
No. What show is that?
Woodland.
Good luck. Do well.
I hope so. It's always been a decent show for me.
Yeah.
I know that Tim Peters does it. There's a lot of people. Nels used to do it. I think that he's doing it also. Nels Johnson.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that drop the show also.
There's only one Nels, right? You don't have to mention his last name.
There was another-
I don't know. Okay.
No.
I don't know.
Well, no. So, do you guys think? Sorry, the court's not here to jump in on this. Do you guys
Yeah.
think anything like a NAIA kind of organization or is ever going to rise up again to work on behalf of artists with promoters to improve the quality of art shows? Or are we always going to be left with this, well, the show sucks, I'm walking away from it and I'll go find something else?
I don't think their intention was to improve the quality of shows more than have the shows properly run. I mean, they're not telling you who to jury in or out.
No, but a lot of these things that we've been talking about, decisions about how to run the shows, how to promote the shows, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I remember when NAIA first started, they were proposing that all photographers were required to print their own work.
Right.
And I won't go into that.
Yeah, we can go into that, Larry. I will stick out the bottom for you. I would curse them out. Every single one person that say the opposite of that.
Hey, we have somebody new here.
fresh meat. She
Wait,
looks serious.
I need to put my glasses on.
But do you think, is there
Hi,
any,
Jamie.
She looks serious. Oh, no, no, she smiled.
I've lurked and I've watched you guys in many of your meetings for a long time, so I'm a little bit nervous to like actually be here and
Nervous.
Fine.
Nervous.
No one's gonna
Come
bite
on,
you.
yeah.
Come on, we'll mute Barry if he gets obnoxious.
I'm
No,
nice.
it's like Barry is nice and he's very honest and I kind
That's
of like
right.
the brutal honesty sometimes.
Hey, maybe we should rename the meetings to Brutal Honesty.
You know, it's a thing.
But-
So What was the
What?
question? Who's asking the question?
Well, the question I was still seeing if anybody else wanted to jump in on is, is there any advantage to, or any hope, both hope or and advantage to having an organization come in that would sort of work on behalf of artists with promoters to improve the landscape in which we're trying to sell?
The answer to that is as much as I would like Naya to step up and say what you're asking, each show runs their own, it's each company.
Yeah.
So
I
you
mean,
cannot tell a company how to run their business. So that will not fly. They will not want to, they give all the information to them. For what I understand, they give all the information to the shows. The information is up to the show to take the information and use it. It's like, the saying that you can bring to the horse to the water, but you cannot force the horse to drink the water.
No, but I think along the lines that you're saying, would you, if you looked at the top shows in the country, would you not, do you not think there's a case to be made that they make so much more money doing what they do and how they do it than so many of the shows out there that are barely getting by doing a crappy job? Like you were talking earlier with the younger people that have the information, but they're not going to use it. They go, oh, I know how to do this, blah, 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 blah. Don't you think the shows like the Cherry Creeks, the Main Street Fort Worth, et cetera, make far, far, far more money for the organization than the majority of our shows out there?
they do, but that's because they know how to get sponsors.
That's right. But that's part of what I'm asking, is that if there was a group there on behalf of artists that would be working with promoters to say, you can do this differently and it can be more effective for you and you can make more money, which then gives you more money to promote, which grows your shows. Because those shows have always been wonderful examples to me of how shows can be done right and work.
Yeah.
I've answered that question a gazillion times over the past 20 years, and I've given up. I don't care anymore. Let them all go to Hicks if there's 5 or 6 or 10 shows that are any good. As long as I get it, I have to get in.
That's the thing that I told that to Will and Douglas, and people always even told the court. The biggest problem that we have is that we don't have choices. And what I mean with choices, we don't have enough quality shows to do. Like there's more artists, there's more good artists that shows can allow into the show. Look at like I go back to what Jake Mandugo say. He can fill up St. Louis Affair 3 times.
Yeah.
And no have the same artist.
That's been said many times over the years.
I mean, I had an interview with Terry Adams when he was a director of Cherry Creek,
right?
Saying
the first
that they could put together at least 2 shows of equal quality.
And that's the problem that we have. The quality, you have more quality artists right now than quality shows, and you have a bunch of solid B shows, what I consider B shows. But even that, there's not enough good shows. There's not enough B shows, solid B shows. There have to be. I'm expecting every show to be Cherry Creek, Fort Worth, Des Moines. I'm expecting that. But I do want to have shows like in the same line of, hey, you do Coconut Grove, you're great. You do South Lake and you're good. You do Lakefront, you're doing good.
The Oscar,
yeah.
I wish you had been around 30 years ago to really see the way it was.
No, I got a good idea how it was, but
there were a lot of shows that were A shows. I mean, like Boston Mills was an A show, and what else? There were a lot of them that were.
There were a lot of them back then.
There were okay, and if you have 30 shows that are that good, you can't do every show. So it's more people would get it. It would be spread out more.
which was good because then artists, to be successful, have more opportunities to do shows that can be one of those top tier type shows where you can go do a lot of money at one show and you don't need to putz around with all these little pissant shows where you're going to be taking a chance every year.
Unless you're a photographer.
Well, but see, back then, photography, when I first started, photography was about 10 to 12% of the artists in shows. The big category was painters. And then
Right.
probably the next biggest
Right.
was jewelers, and then
Right.
ceramic artists, and it came down and down, but 10 to 12% photographers, most all shows. Nowadays, the two biggest categories are what? Jewelry and photography.
Yeah, and those are the two
Photography
that
and
sell.
jewelry, depending on how you.
But see, you're
What-
talking back then when the shows worked better, there was a better, to me, a better limit on certain categories of art, one of them being photography. But then if you had more shows that were stronger, more viable, then artists would have so many more choices and so much more opportunity to grow and be successful. Right now, so many artists can't get into those top shows. So we spend our careers in these little B, C, D shows, and we don't know how they're going to be for us until we invest the first time. And so we're spending a lot of our time and money experimenting with shows. And that's not a good business model, I don't think, is it?
No, but
So why-
I think one of the things that could be done to improve shows is a lot of the top artists, or at least the knowledgeable artists, talk to their local shows and see if they could improve their local shows.
But see, and along that line, there used to be a few shows, not many, that had an artist advisory board. Why don't more shows do that? Get 6 or 8 artists that they've met during the course of the years of doing their show. They say, we really liked the way you think, you interact well, you explain yourself well, you have good ideas, you do shows all over the country. So you see a lot of the same problems that we experience and solutions. Let's learn from that.
That's right.
How many shows these days have an artist advisory panel?
Very few.
And
At one
see-
time, I was an advisor to Reston
Yeah,
or
Virginia.
Tefra or whatever it's called now, some European.
Tefra.
Yeah. Bethesda Row, Three Rivers, and there was one other show in there, I don't remember. But
Why do you think there's so many fewer good shows? What happened?
well, the shows are
That's easy.
inundated with mediocre artwork and in their applications,
That's not why.
and it's the jury.
Not
Right.
why.
Okay, why?
Well, but it all starts with the director. The early shows, the directors were really great, and it was really cool to do it, to have shows in your town because you brought artists from other places in there. Okay, so but those directors don't exist forever, so then they would leave and they would be replaced with somebody that wasn't quite as good as the last one. And so it would go slightly downhill because of the less attention to detail or whatever. And then they would leave, and then the next director would go, hey, I'm going to make us more money without knowing how to do it. And then that would go downhill. And every time there's a new director of the show, it gets worse.
But
I've
Terry,
said this.
that's a description, not an explanation. Why do
said
shows
this.
hire progressively inferior
Oh, but
directors? How did that
because
first generation of show directors be so good?
Attention to detail, all the little things that are the really good directors do. Hey, listen, I think that before you become a director of a show, you should be required to work as a volunteer for Stephen King to learn how to do it right.
Or Cindy Lyric.
Or
Cindy
Bill
Lyric.
Charney, who set up.
Yeah, exactly. How can they do it? Look at how can these shows do it every year and be really good, and then these other ones go downhill?
See,
How
and
can
then-
it be?
You're
in answer
missing
to your
one
question,
thing.
in answer to
You're
your
missing
question,
one
Frank,
thing.
I think one of the things that would be great to have whoever's going to take over a show have to get up and explain is what their vision is for that show becoming. And I don't think most of, like sort of along the lines of what Barry's saying, I don't think that's part of what they do when they assess who's going to be the new director of a show. You know, well, they don't ask them, well, where do you want this to go? What do you expect it to become? How are you going to make it better or different than it is right now?
You know,
Which I
hey
think-
Ron, you know why that's a great statement? Because Coconut Grove, when they and this is the one show that turned around, you
Right.
know, really. And she said, you know, she posed it to them. Do you want this to be a great festival, or you want this to be the best art fair in the country? And they made a choice, and then, you know, they want it to be the best art fair. And
Right.
and so, but all the other ones want festivals. Oh, we got to have music. Oh, we have to have a children's booth. We have to have something for everyone.
Right.
Great.
And no, and that's a great example of it, because how many shows, just as an example, how many shows do we see try to mix music and art, and it just doesn't do it well? It's so hard to do that. So to have them say, what is your vision? What's your mission? What do you want this to become? And if you had the people out there that were good directors that had that concept, learn from them and say, yeah, let's make this a great art show. Let's make it one of the best shows in the country, because there's no reason that Columbus, Ohio, or Detroit, Michigan can't be of the same stature as a lot of the top shows.
That's the one I wanted to tell you. Like a perfect example is Peoria, the Art Fair Peoria. That used to be a great show, right?
Yeah.
So what it was not the director that changed. It was the situation in the town. All the big companies that live in the area, a lot of people stop having the money to buy artwork. You know, that's another thing that sometimes we overlook.
Well, yes and no, but look at, again, I always point to Des Moines, Iowa on this. Des Moines doesn't have a lot of huge businesses in Des Moines, but they make it work. And you look at Peoria, look at all the cities around Peoria that aren't being, then in your example, I don't think they're being tapped to say, hey, come to our art show. Yeah, you're 30 miles away, but people who want to buy art are going to travel 30 miles. Because again, look at all these examples of, you know, how many people drive to Cherry Creek to be there? How many people come from miles, hundreds of miles to go to Ann Arbor or to go to Central Pennsylvania?
Ann Arbor is not that great a show, to be honest with you. I just think it's not even a shadow what it used to be.
It
not
was
even
though.
Close.
But
You
it
know,
was, yes, it was at one time. Why did, and it goes to what we're talking about. Why did it fail? Can it not come back? Is the Ann Arbor dead as a community? And I don't think it is.
If the community has changed, because
it's the politics between the shows.
What was that?
It's politics between the shows.
Between the three Ann Arbor shows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get along now. They converse. They
Well,
meet
yeah,
together.
but the North University with the original show lost their great space on South University.
Is that not changeable to go back to
No.
what it was?
No. The Guild took over
That's not
that
happening.
space now, right?
Plus, you know what? They lost their mojo of having all the customers come to the original show and have everybody sell out on Wednesday. They lost that mojo. They can't.
Come on, I did the original show and didn't sell out on Wednesday.
But
Well,
is losing
That's
that
understandable.
is that mojo once lost not recoverable? Is it a death sentence that it's never going to come back, or can that mojo, like you're saying, Barry, can that be
It's
found?
it's
I'm
not going to
staying
come
out
back,
of
but
this.
it's going to transform, and it could be something equally as good.
With the right management, right? With the right
I think I'm too old to have the energy to be fighting this. So, and there's no young people that are going to stand up and say, "Ugh," you know,
Yeah,
because they don't know what it was like. They think this is the way it always was, the way it is now.
Yeah, what they need is one single director that oversees the three shows.
Or they
Good
need
luck
to,
with that.
they need to go one time to the show and have a phenomenal show to feel what it is like to go to a good art show. and how much difference that can make in your
Yeah, you
perception.
know,
No.
if they see it,
No.
they have
Well,
to have a vision.
There
But
are some really weird things, like, you know what, the whole time, like, you can buy a parking pass for $100 for for 5 days or whatever. But
Not
I
200,
found I
200
found
bucks.
a lot that I always parked in for $18 a day, and I don't have to pay. You know, I only park there twice. Well, I drove in with Oscar every day, but if I had to park, if I had to pay for a park, it would have been four times 18, and so that's not $100. I'd be saving money. The whole, you know, why are they just, and listen, it was $100 when the show was 4 days. They didn't lower the price, you know,
I
and
don't
I don't
know.
think I think they should give artists the parking space because we're making them money.
But then the city is losing money because it's $100 because they have to
Oscar,
the way they figure it out is
the city
basically
is
how
not
much
losing.
money that meter makes that week.
This is so ironic that's what people think.
I
They
mean,
are
that's
making
nickel
hand
and
over
dime.
fist the city because it isn't just the parking meters, and it's the money, it's the sales tax. Well, that's the state. It's the tax that when you eat in a restaurant, you know, people that come to town in hotels and spend their money and buying clothes and spending all this money and staying there for 4 days.
But that money doesn't
They're
go to the
making a
meter
ton
people.
of money. They act like,
That
you know,
doesn't go.
Hey, when I
The
used to
meters are
do
private.
when I used to do Springfield, Old Capitol,
Yeah.
you used to be able to go to the police department and buy bags for the meters
Oh,
And
that's
just-
cool.
and then
But
park at the meter without moving it for the whole show and just pay them whatever the normal parking would have been if you fed the meter.
Yeah, and see what you guys are hitting at goes to what the original premise of this was, is when a person comes in as the director, can they not, and if they had an artist advisory board as a possibility, these kinds of questions would seem to be important things for a new director to say, okay, these are the things we're going to face. How are we going to solve these problems? How are we going to work with the community? How are we going to work with the artists to make this all work together better? Is that impossible to do?
I think they do that. It just doesn't matter. They're not hitting on anything. Hey, let me go back to Ann Arbor for a second.
Sure.
It's called shaping behavior when you change it a little every year, and then after 5 or 6 years, it's a shadow of the way it was. And you know, not that this actually matters, but you used to get a T-shirt. All the shows had their own T-shirts, and every artist got one. And now there isn't one. Okay, the price of the show is gone up. Okay, but you don't get that at the Guild show. There used to be a breakfast, catered breakfast. It was really nice, and now they just have finger food at night, and they, you know, on Saturday night or one of the nights. Maybe that's Friday night. You know, it's not the same. It's not, you know, they're taking away stuff, but they're taking away benefits, and they're charging the same. And it's a little every year, so people don't notice. And if you just started doing those shows, you didn't know that you got all this stuff at the end. There used to be State Street used to have a pizza party at the end of the show for people to celebrate, you know, the show. And there's nothing, you know, that they don't have this anymore. So it's weird. So you can do that. You take a little away. Every show can take a little away every year, and suddenly, and you don't notice it. You know,
With a
after
good
few
director,
years.
can't they add a little bit every year and make it better and better and better? Like the Bill Charneys, like the lady down there with Coconut Grove. Can't they grow these art shows?
The question that you have to, the question you're missing is like, who is your buyer, Ron?
Pardon?
What's the age? What is the age of your buyer?
Mine tends to be more probably 35 to 65, somewhere in there. Younger ones
Okay.
no longer since 2008 have been kind of gone.
Okay, so the problem that most people we having as our show is that the people they have more money to spend going to buy something, only one thing for their houses. You think about the new houses now, they open concept, they have less wall space. So you buy that one piece that you want for the living room, that one piece for the dining room, basically you're done. They only have like a few pieces here and there. The really high end, the people that buy really expensive houses, they usually, the main house is usually gallery work. They don't go to the art shows. Then the people with the second home, they will put stuff in the from the art shows, but they're usually big pieces, something really nice that they like, that just impress people. But we don't have. What I'm saying is that the people that actually buying artwork right now, it's going smaller and smaller and smaller. They usually just go to the big box stores now to see gallery, to Pottery
Oscar.
Barn to buy stuff.
Oscar, you're illustrating something and you don't even realize it. It used to be that people used to collect from artists. There's
Yeah.
no people that collect stuff anymore. And you just illustrated that. All they're doing is putting something on the wall they have no emotional attachment to it or anything. And they're missing the really great thing about creating an environment, which actually in Europe and Japan, especially Japan, it still exists, even more so. It never went away. One could say, well, they're more sophisticated than us because all we're doing is, matching the carpeting and the color of the wall.
But do you think that that's the people and Oscar too, that those people don't exist anymore? Or as these younger people have aged, they're different than the people that aged before that bought art? You don't think that those people, as they go along, or if they bought one piece and as they get more money and they get a bigger house, that they want to get more art? Do you think that our buyers are just disappearing from or that the promoters can't draw in?
I just think that until you don't get to your 40s, you don't start thinking artwork for your house, and then at that point they just buying stuff just to fill the home. I don't think that this comes back to the fact that they're not teaching art in school anymore, in general, and you don't have appreciation for art. It's becoming more like I would say the way I was growing up. We didn't see art like as anything. It was pointless. You're better off you having a TV in the wall and watching TV or playing games than watching a piece of artwork that might give you something to smile every day.
Yeah, but we became artists. Look at that. We didn't even understand art. We didn't.
We did. No, you didn't understand art. I understood art. I have an education in it, and part of me thinks that we should have to pass a test, that an art test, to be able to get into this, because why wouldn't you take art classes and know about it? That's I don't. That's
because
my opinion.
Well, for example, in answer to your question, my parents never believed in art, so we weren't going to be ever introduced to art or to art classes.
But
you happen to be
classes, Barry.
What now?
Schools are not offering art classes.
Listen, I used to go down to the Detroit Institute of Arts in the summertime once a week. It was 25 cents to get down to Woodward Avenue and a nickel a transfer, and you could get to the art museum for 30 cents.
Until you're 70 years old.
Well, I know. I know, but I'm just talking about, I'm just being nostalgic. I'm just saying, who cares what it costs? So now you take an Uber down there and an Uber back. Your parents are giving you $100 a week for allowance anyway, or whatever they get.
My
know?
parents gave me money to go down and see the Cleveland Indians play downtown.
Oh, I was gonna.
But
That's
it was
right.
fun.
Well, yeah, I went to see the Tigers. I
Yeah.
went to a lot of games. I mean, there's, but the art thing was part of it, and to me, it was like being at Disneyland, Disney World. I wasn't. It was like it was fun. Let's
Well,
go
I
look at the artwork.
to the art
So why
museum.
didn't you become an artist?
I don't know
Yeah.
The
because
art
my parents
that-
because my parents.
at the museum for kids
Anybody
is
doing
like
that.
$75 or last I heard it was $75 for 3 half days. And
Oh.
they come home with, the stuff that like, well, that's nice. What does it mean? And they're like, I don't know. This is what they said to do.
They bought a T-shirt that says, "I went to the art museum and all I got was this lousy T-shirt."
Well, no, they brought home stuff that, and they learned a little bit about who the artist was that they were copying, but they were copying it on, printer paper with markers rather than whatever it was the artist used.
Well,
Are any kids like do Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts anymore?
Not very many.
We did
It's
arts and
hard to
crafts.
get them to it with their schedules.
Yeah.
Parent schedules and 3 kids, each with a different schedule is pretty hard to do.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really. I just telling you, it
All
has
right,
changed how we do things.
This is too cosmic for me.
Hey, they
I
used to
gotta
sit.
go.
Wait. Don't go away. I want to say one more thing. When I
Okay.
go into a store, I went into a store last week or a couple weeks ago, and I actually brought this up already once, but I'm going to do it again. And it's a $7 item, and I give her $10, and she needs a calculator to subtract 10 minus 7. There's no hope for that generation.
That's right.
It's like that's like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like, oh my God, you can't 10 minus 7, you can't do that. Second grade, you could do that. Come on.
Things I can't,
Or
sometimes I can do algebra in my head, it just depends on how tired I am.
or the bill or the total is $5.02, and you give them a $10 bill and 2 cents, and
That's right.
they don't understand that they can just give you back a $5 bill.
Yes, that's happened to me.
Yes, and
not
I've
too
had
long
that
ago.
experience more than once too, Larry.
Yeah, that happened to me last week.
Oh my God.
Goodbye, all. I'll
There's
see you
no
in a
hope
week.
for this country if that's the way it is.
Well, that's because they spend all their time looking at their phones.
This is partially true. So long.
Well, it's one of the
Okay.
things.
Very good, Brian.
All right, Frank's gone.
Now we can talk about it.
yeah.
Right.
Oh my God.
So, Ron,
So-
what the panels looked like at Comic-Con before there was artwork on them.
Yeah, I've been waiting for a break to say something about those. Those are pretty amazing.
Well, this is one of the ancient ends ones. They got put up first because they were on top, but
Wow.
they do have some newer ones, but they're 4x4 pegboard, and he sets them up into so they'll be bays in sort of a semi zigzag, and that way, if somebody wants 4 panels and they're there in time to get a choice, they can have 4 together inside a personal little bay.
Those are cable ties holding them together?
I think he used zip ties to
Zip
make
ties, yeah.
just as there's screws and bolts there too, but that just sort of reinforces it. Because like I said, this is an older set. But
So is that your living room?
What?
Is that your living room?
No, that's the hotel ballroom.
Oh, okay.
Come
because
on,
my
be
living
honest.
room-
You're with friends. You can tell us, yeah.
My living room looks like that, but with pro panels.
So do you wear a Do you wear a costume when you do
I
these?
could, but I don't because it's too hard to deal with. There's one person who's there every time, and he has a full beard and everything, and he puts spray glitter on it, and he dresses up as the mermaid each time.
Cute.
So it's quite interesting. But this, like I said, is the way it's set up. So, like I said, if you want more than one space on that, you could have a private space at the other end to the left there, facing the, well, that one faces the front. Or on the back of the bay, there's a 2-panel thing. Or there could be 4 individual artists on that one bay. And generally sets up more than they expect to have there, just so people do have some choice. And they put up mail-ins. Those generally go up first before most of the local artists come in with stuff. But
Thanks for showing us those. Those are pretty cool.
yeah.
Historical. So,
Well, yeah, it's been being used for probably 40 years, at least 30 or 40. The first Comic-Con art show was in, I think, 76. So I don't think any of them are that old. But the people who set them up tend to break a few each time. And then get replaced with newer ones.
Are there freebies?
Freebies?
Yeah, like if I come to there, the people like pass out comics or whatever.
At the main show, main convention, yeah, not so much at the art show doesn't have freebies.
Oh yeah, well that'd be different.
Yeah.
Here's
the
my
art show-
here's my 1978 pegboard booth.
Yeah, well, arts are more densely populated. People
That's-
have them hanging off the bottom and sticking up over the top or sides sometimes.
Oval die cut maps.
Oh,
I
Cute.
remember framed embroidery with them. And you put a little puppy thing behind it so it pops it out. So it's semi 3D that way.
Well,
well, one last thing, going back to what we were talking about, are we saying that we think that the art buying segment of our culture no longer exists, and that regardless of what promoters do, they're not going to be able to draw in the kinds of people that we've experienced in the past that are going to come spend bigger dollars on art on a regular basis?
I don't know how. I mean, how do you differentiate? I mean, those people are still there. The question is, how are you going to get to them?
But that
They're
seems
too
to be the
old.
question.
Well, they're too old to leave their house now.
You think?
Yeah,
No, that's what-
the old people.
I think
mean-
now too, people move a lot. So
that's
you
the
know,
only
Well,
problem.
they downsize too.
well, they
Yeah.
downsize, but
Oh yeah, I
That's
love
why
that
they
one.
moved from Southern California to Arizona, or
That-
burned in Central California. So now they're trying to find a place in Southern California, and the prices are so high that the insurance doesn't even provide a down payment.
But you go to Florida, and a lot of people downsize, but a lot of people go down there and buy second homes. Now
They have money too.
that's right. And reaching those people would seem to be absolutely critical for shows. But I'm not sure.
Well, you got to do shows in Florida to reach them.
Well, but you have to also have confidence that the promoters of those shows are reaching those people, because otherwise you're going to get the people that are downsizing. And up
It's
here,
all a risk. Hey, and that's why I do Howard Alley, because for some reason Howard gets the people that come to the show.
He used to advertise. I don't know if he still does. He used to advertise in the Jewish newspapers.
That helps.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that if you're looking for good markets, and it depends on what you have also. I don't want to tell you that everybody will do well, but I would say Florida is still a viable market. Colorado seems to be a viable market. but those are places where people have second homes. Utah is a good market because there's a place that people have second homes.
Mhm.
And if you have a second home, that means that you have money. Or doesn't have to be a lot of money, but you have money, to have a second home. It doesn't have to be a big home. It could be a modest home. Yesterday I went to the John Hancock, and the lady lives in Arizona. That's her main home, but she has a studio here in Chicago, in the John Hancock. And so,
So you're saying though Chicago doesn't have growth of people that are getting bigger homes that are, or even second homes, maybe up on lakes where they vacation or somewhere else?
me personally, I know that some people do really well in Chicago. Me personally, I don't do well in Chicago. I just don't do, when I compare a show same level to another show same level out of town, it's not even close. It's just like what the hell I'm doing this?
Well,
might as well just do installation all week long.
But part of that, isn't that concept of finding your market and assuming that the promotion was equal in all these areas. Some areas are going to be our market more so than others. People will respond
No,
to
that's what I said. That's what I said. Like Chicago is not a good market for me. I can tell you that for sure. Then I wish I was totally wrong. Last year, they shocked me. They surprised me in 57th Street, but that was the first time that show happened since COVID. That probably was
How'd you do
one
it?
of my
Old
best
Town?
shows of the year.
How'd you do it? How'd you do it? Old Town.
Old Town number wise was a $6,000 show. And Madison, I did almost 10. So that's my point. Like it doesn't, when you compare two shows same level, doesn't even come close to each other.
That gross or net?
That's gross. I always say gross. I don't say net. I never say net because I really don't know what is, because my net can vary so much that it's not even like I can do $10,000 by selling 4 prints. I can sell 340 by 60 and 130 by 45. I'm in $10,000. Or I can sell 330 by 45, and the difference is the net for that would be prints 8 each 40 by 60 is $800, so it's $2,400 or $2,900 in prints.
Yeah, but you have travel and so on to those shows outside of your hometown.
Yeah, but even that, the hotel in Madison was, and the gas was $500, and the show local up Old Town cost me $750 just for the booth fee. And that's what it cost me to. It's what it cost me to do Madison, basically.
Do you think
including
though,
the gas?
in your quieter moments when you're sitting back with a nice margarita in your hands, do you think that any part of that is due to how Madison promotes its show versus how that Old Town or any other show there in Chicago promotes itself?
That's what that's what I'm comparing apples to apples, because both shows promote really well.
Yeah, but you see, Madison is like a single show for that city.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of shows in Chicago.
Good point.
So,
Good point.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. But I cannot tell you one way or another one. I'm just saying that I don't do what, when I compare to the shows when I'm out of town, I do better. And this is the same thing that I was saying to people 10 years ago. So because people start asking why I don't do local shows, and I said, well, I go to out of town and I make more money than here.
You see what, 20 years ago, going back a little further, like when I started in Barry, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, and Larry, yours, shows were so much stronger. Even putsy little shows were so much stronger.
Yeah.
People came and bought all different kinds of art.
Yeah.
What's changed? Are those people all dead and gone and nobody's replaced them? Or is it that
I think that's it.
I went to the ZAP conference in Louisville.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many years ago that was. And I think I was a presenter or something. I was on the jury when they did the mock jury. But there was a thing, the presentation from this idiot from the Museum of Modern Art, talking about, giving away, let people come in and take pictures, and artists are crazy for not letting people take pictures of their artwork in their booths, because that's the only way that spread the word about their artwork. And I'm saying, and I said, you're talking about dead artists. They don't give a shit if the word of their artwork is being spread around. But what he created, the example that he was giving is the new generation of owning artwork is taking a picture and looking at it on your iPhone, not looking at it on the wall.
Wow.
Well, you can buy digital.
And that's the generation of art lovers that he sees as his market.
Right. But I think it's kind of like what we somewhat talked about before, is that when we were growing up, most of us didn't relate very strongly to art. It just
Keep saying this to people in the art shows now. You have to tell people when you get home, you want to see things on your walls that make you feel happy.
Well, I mean,
It's-
as photographers, we didn't start out thinking we were going to do art shows. We were just taking pictures.
right, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
But when we started doing art shows, yeah, I think
Then we
We-
started tailoring what we were shooting to what the public was buying.
no, not me.
I did.
How about you, Oscar? Do you?
I know, especially now. I shoot whatever the F I want, and if it sells, it sells. It doesn't sell, screw anybody else.
Come on,
I have
Ron,
the
you,
patience
Ron,
to wait.
I'm with
Ron,
you.
you remember my teddy bear pictures,
I
right?
just
Ron?
make my pots, and if they don't like it, it's their problem.
What now?
Ron, you remember my teddy bear pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the most commercial photography anybody ever sold at art shows. People used to line up in my front of my booth. They had to physically close me down at the end of the day.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But like Barry, with your ceramics, did you just made what you wanted to, right? Did you ever make what you thought the public was responding to better?
Never.
Never. Yeah.
I
You know
just
what,
wanted
you
to
know-
make what. Well, the
You-
difference is, I made what I wanted to make and tried to convince them to buy it. I talked
Yeah.
about it.
and it works.
I taught them. Now it's funny because now it's generally a younger generation that asks me, "How'd you do this?" And after the first two, I don't want to go through that again. So I just tell them, go to college, or it's magic or something.
Well, when you started, have you always done raku?
I not necessarily. I can do well actually for art shows. Yeah, I think I did always do raku, but I can do anything. I can do any of the firing techniques, mid range, porcelain. I could do.
But
I was trained in all of it.
you went to raku because you just like doing it the
It
most.
was fun. It was immediate. It was it was a challenge. You didn't know what you were getting.
That's right.
It
And
was
don't you think
cool.
that sometimes the people that buy your work sense some of that your sense of discovery?
I hope so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so because you get comments, especially with the square. They'll comment afterwards. I have a whole list of comments, and I'll give you an example. I'll give you another example that illustrates this. I did Fort Worth in 2017 and didn't get in till this year again. And each block has a block captain, and at the end of the 2017 show, I gave my block captain a small piece because she did a really great job looking out for all of us. So I pull up, I drive up, and she's still the same block captain in that block. And the first words out of her mouth was, "I look at your piece every day, and I love it."
And that's a supreme compliment, isn't it?
I know and so that's what I like. That's what I want.
Yeah, see, I find mine on eBay going for $5.
Yeah.
That's a little depressing. I know there's some other artists that do that. They like, yeah, I got 8 pieces on eBay and they sell for about $5. And I'm like, ouch.
If they sell it all.
If they sell it all,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
Every once in a while, I'll get a phone call from somebody. Their mother or father died, and they found a piece in the drawer, and they wanted to know if it was valuable. If
Yeah, how much can I get for this?
Oh, yeah.
How much
it's
did they pay
valuable.
for this when they bought it? Yeah. Yeah, that's not good. Well, if the art market is changing to where people aren't going to, truthfully, across all these different art markets, are not going to buy art at all like they used to, then that changes the landscape a lot. But I'm just not convinced that that's the case. So as long as there's art buyers out there, it seems that the skill level and the vision of promoters is critical to making decisions that will draw those people in for us, because it's hard
I
for.
want to take it. I
Pardon?
will take it to a little more personal run. I think the reason why I'm doing much better now is because I'm printing bigger and I'm trying to, I became more realistic. I start looking at how many sales I do per show. If I'm doing 10 to 15 sales in a show, how many of those I need to do big so I can make up the ground faster? So it's more like you have to also see how can you adapt to what you're doing. You cannot, I'm not saying to change your body of work or anything like that. It's just you have to present it bigger
But
and make more money from per piece.
But is the driver for your going to bigger pieces just making more money, or is there a part of that you like seeing your work bigger? It's a whole new ballgame for you.
It looks better. The work that I do currently looks better, bigger. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can answer that about Oscar's pieces. It definitely, they're more dramatic. They make more of a
They get
statement.
bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not. So you have to also think I just don't want to. This is everything across my life. I don't want to. I do everything in my power that I can do to be successful. So when I get to the show, I don't want to be thinking if I would have done this or would have done that, what I can do, what I cannot do. It's just like today I called my friend Anita Baldov and asked her if it was worth spending the money in the 10 by 15. And she was saying like, if you don't buy it, at least you have to move that one they put in the front, put it in the side. Even if you don't buy the 10, just get a double booth and start spreading yourself out, because you need more space to see your work. Because
you can always get another 10 by 10 and put them next to each other.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I can do. So it's just I think you have to own what you're doing first, see what you can do in your end, and then worry about the promoters. Because we can, I talk to most of the promoters that I do the shows year after year. I know them by name, and they know me by name, and it's good or bad, but you know that you can say, but they're going to do what they think is best. You can suggest, but they're going to end doing whatever they want to do. So the only thing that I tell people is, the only thing I want a promoter to give me is a good spot overall, a spot that's safe, and I will take it from there. But I don't hold them accountable if myself don't do well or not, because I know that I can tell you this from Amy Ander for sure. She knows that the way for her to be successful is the artist do well. So, and she try her best for everybody to do good, but it's not going to happen for everybody. And you have to understand what is your market also. So when I go there, I go with the idea that I've done everything that I can. If it doesn't work out, I know it wasn't me. You know.
Really?
But you have to do your part also. You have to send emails. You have to do everything that you can in your end. So if you know it doesn't work out, you just wash your hands and move away. And that's the way I approach it. And that's everything in my life. It's like I do. If I see something wrong, I just, if I see something bad happening in that street, I'm not going to walk to that street. I'm going to walk the other direction. So that's the way they taught me. That's the way I teach, and that's how I tell all my nieces and nephews. Don't be stupid, you know. See trouble, move the other direction. You're smarter than that. So it's being a little bit selfish also. And sometimes
it's a little, the flip side of that is a little tough, because if they ever get in trouble, they would probably like to see people around them not walk away, but step in and help them. Correct?
I understand that part in life, but I said like when I'm in trouble is if the cops are pulling people over, you know.
Yeah. Okay. In that case,
Yeah.
Me too.
You know, I'm talking about real problems, no petty stuff. You know, and you're not going to go to a place that they're throwing rocks to the windows, right? Because you're going to get arrested also. That's what I said. So, but that's just me. So, out of curiosity, Jamie, what kind of work you do?
I'm a jeweler.
You're in a good place. There's a lot of
I'm here because I'm, for better or worse, Barry, I'm the younger generation, and I'm hoping to actually listen and learn from all of you guys with the real stuff and come with it. Ron, I think part of it is it's kind of altruistic, you know, to have a good show director that cares more than beyond that. It's hard to find now. You have to find somebody who's more pure of heart and cares more about art than they do about the money. And so many people now running these things, it is just all about how much money they can make.
Where do you
And
live?
but the crazy thing is, again, you look at the top shows in the country, they make lots and lots of money. Their corporate
Right.
sponsorship.
Actually,
Yeah.
they make more
That's
money.
that's the ironic thing, Ron. The ones that do it right make the most money. The
And
ones
then
that are trying to make the money are failing. It's just
That's
so
right.
backwards.
And even if they copied what the good shows did, that form of copying is a good thing, because it's going to make your show better. It's going to make you more money. And if you're selling art, you have to be oriented, your decisions and your thought process towards art and art in the community and how people respond to art. And if they can do that, the door is open for them to become wonderfully successful. If not,
They should hire Cindy Lyric to come in.
So,
But I
Jamie, where you live?
Go ahead.
if they don't copy in the right order of those better shows, and instead they're copying the easy things first, or the shiny bits first, that's what keeps them at that lower level.
Well, they don't know
Got
what the show is actually doing.
Right.
that's
They're
right.
just, where do you live and how far do you travel for shows?
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I've just started going out of state. I'm a brand new baby, and so I'm just here to learn from you guys as much as possible. And I have a very different perspective and introduction to this, because I listened to your guys' stories about what shows have been for the last 10, 20 years. And I remember what they were when I was a kid locally, but I also wasn't exposed to much beyond Park City and Utah.
Yeah.
And those
Yeah,
are
it
two
seems-
good shows.
And
And
ba-
you know,
yeah, back in the older days, when so many shows were stronger, you could walk away from the show and find another one pretty easily that would be a good show and more maybe your market. That experimenting was not as costly as it is now. Now I think we'd all agree that it's a lot more costly because a lot of those shows that you're going to go experiment with are going to be total pieces of junk, not worth having shown up. And oftentimes you'll lose money at them. And that just didn't seem to happen 15, 20 years ago.
But I think that's also the only thing that's filtering the market, so to speak, anymore, because if we're talking about quality, because now it's so easy to get in and get started and start thinking that you actually have talent when maybe you don't, because you've been surrounded by all this mediocre stuff. The only thing that's going to filter out some of that better stuff is how expensive it is to experiment and whether or not you've got the grit to keep going through it.
But see, the sad thing is, what you're right, is that when you go out and you experiment with these shows, when you're starting out being an artist, and you run into bad, poorly run, poorly envisioned, bad logistic shows, you get put in the bad blue spot, like Oscar was talking about. You get all these different things can go wrong. And how many people can filter out, well, that's not me and my artwork. My artwork is still good and solid. These were things I couldn't control versus, oh my God, I'm just not a good artist. I can't do this. You know, people aren't responding. They're not buying my artwork. That's a possibility, but I think it's much more remote because I think unless new people are not creating good work, they're not being seen by viable buyers of art, which is where the show, that's the essence of what show promotion to me is. It's reaching out to say, we're going to reach everybody in our community and surrounding communities on a regular basis to let them know that this is handmade, beautiful art. Come find what you want, like they did in the old days. And if they can do that, then we're more successful discovering how good we are with art and how people respond to what we make. But right now, there's just so many shows that don't do that. And just in the course of this year, I've seen shows like Springfield Old Capitol, Lohmeyer, 57th Street struggling. These shows never used to struggle. They used to be great shows. So things are going wrong that we can't control. And it'd be nice if they could get their focus back and if we can help them, artist advisory panels, things like that, to help them rediscover that. But also, I think when Barry brought it up, when they hire new promoters, making sure they have a focus that makes sense for art, not just an event, but art. Not
Hey, Ron?
music and art, just art.
I don't know if you remember this, but it was much easier to get into shows 35 years ago.
Yeah, there was.
There was much less competition and the quality overall was better.
Yes, it
There
was.
And there was experimentation. People weren't afraid to actually make real artwork as opposed to, settle into some commercial thing.
Yeah, I think we saw artists that every maybe 4 or 5 years would switch to a good degree what they were doing because they wanted to experiment with a different art form. And it was beautiful because they were,
Good.
when they switched over, they were still good at what they made. That doesn't happen. You're right. There was that one artist from out in Oregon or Washington that was killed in that car accident in Idaho. It was like that. He just, oh, I'm doing something different now. And you're like, but it looks like you've been doing this for 20 years. It's great. That needs to come back. That's part of art. Always has been.
So go get your med degree. Forget this art thing. Oh, I know. Wait, no. Since you're a jeweler, go to dental school because that's just dentistry is jewelry. You know, you're making teeth.
It is, yeah. We steal a lot from dentistry.
There you go. So you have a head start already. You've been warned.
Yeah. I was being warned since I was 5.
So what
Didn't
brought you to wanting to be an artist?
I can't even pinpoint it. I was very fortunate enough to have family friends who were trying to make it work, and one of them who still is, who's a sculptor and travels around a little bit. So I got the behind the scenes of the local art shows, and for me, it's playing with those basic elements and bringing them together to say, look at how cool this texture is, look at how cool this color is, look at when I combine them together, what they can do. Isn't this just amazing? Everybody should see this. Everybody should appreciate just how incredible it is. And as a jeweler, fortunately, you know, I have the ability to supplement myself a little bit with doing custom and repair work to even out the art show stuff. But sharing my voice, you know, I want to try. I want to make it work.
Good. And this is your full time?
Now, yeah. But I think, do you think maybe where does it start? Is it getting artists on an advisory, and how would we connect to that? You just show up and tell the promoter, hey, look, here's a group of us who want to help make this better, and convince them, make them the sales pitch.
There has to be a promoter willing to listen.
What I want you to do is go try this and then come back and tell us how they reacted.
Well,
I'm not gonna tell you not to do this. I think it's a good idea, but will you come back and tell us what happened?
Well, like when you run into situations, for example, you get put in a really bad booth spot along with some other artists, you get almost a small percentage of a fraction of the foot traffic of other parts of the show. Since you probably got nothing to lose from walking away from the show, maybe at least before you walk away, and do it in a nice way. Say, if you're open to some suggestions, let me give you a few. And because you can make the point with them, which is very valid, that as you do shows around the country, like Barry's experience around the country, Oscar's, Larry, when he used to do shows, we see the same problems, the same issues around the country faced by different promoters. And some have really good solutions and some have really bad solutions. And try to share with them some of the good solutions that you see. May not make a difference, but at least you tried. And if good promoters, to me, I would love, if I was a promoter, I'd love to have an artist advisory board, because I would learn things from them that I hadn't thought about, and solutions.
Yeah, not just all yes people.
Exactly.
Well, they all have their excuses for what they do, you know, why they have a booth space out in outer space.
Yeah, I remember Three Rivers putting 11 booths up on the other side of a 4-lane road.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
How about Gasparilla putting booths behind the stage? There's a row of booths behind the stage.
Holy
That
cow.
was really weird. I mean, there's always a bunch of weird ones. And even now Winter Park has the very last row, it's the flower garden, and nobody goes there. Now, there are times, hopefully it's once in a lifetime, where you get stuck in one of these spaces, but I'm over there, you know, and I didn't really notice it till where are all the people? You know, I'm looking around, where are all the people? And I walked out to the street and it's jammed, and we're sitting there going, oh, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Now,
the one
of
if you
the
ever
things
say
you can
something,
one of the things you can say is, I drove 1,500 miles to do this show, and there's no way you're putting me in this space.
Yeah.
I've actually said that, you know.
No,
and it's true. You can't, I mean,
Yeah,
come
exactly.
on.
It's totally valid, because they need us to come to the shows, to bring the art with us to show to the patrons. So and nowadays with social media, not to sound threatening or anything like that with promoters, but to say, look, if this is the best you can do, I'm going to have to share my experience, my personal experience, with all these other artists, to let them know, hey, you come to the show, this is what you're facing, because that may make a difference for some people to go, some of those promoters to go like, oh shit, well, that's going to make it harder to get artists. Maybe we better reconsider what we're doing, change our layout, which it's not that hard to do if they think about it. maybe that to tell them just, hey, this is a shitty booth spot. I'm not going to make any money here. If they walk the show, they'd see, wow, there's nobody on these places where we put artists. Something's not
They
right.
know.
They know. They just
They
don't
know
want
in
to address it.
advance that they just want to fill that space.
They just want to fill booth spaces, and we need to let them know that's not acceptable as a it's not good. And again, if you had a bad
Just-
show, you might get put back there again. Why not go? You're probably not going to come back and experiment again. So leave with grace and tell them how screwed up their show is.
Hey, at Oklahoma City, they moved me. They moved me, and I still wouldn't go back. Just the fact that I might have to fight them again because they're going to give me a shitty space, and for me, it's kind of paranoia. Like, they don't really like me. They don't want me to come back, so they're going to give me this space. They had to let me in because I applied and I got past the jury, but we really don't want him. So we'll just stick him in this space, and hopefully he won't come back.
Or maybe next year, if you come back, they'll go like, well, we don't want to deal with his being pissed off again, so we'll put him in a good spot so we don't have to deal with it.
Well, yeah, it could be.
Could be.
No, but whatever you do, never do it in public. Just do it in private matter and be polite to them. If you ever say something to them, they sent me the survey for Uptown Art Fair today. I fill it up and I say that I wonder if I was in a better spot. And I even told that on Friday because a food truck parked right in front of my booth. And I text her, say to her, you give me a bad spot already, and then you put a food truck in front of me? Are you kidding me?
Oh, that is, there's some things that are more egregious than other things. And putting a food truck in front of me that's
Pretty egregious, yeah.
Oh my God. And what do you do?
I told her that they ain't moving it because I told this to her. Last time this happened to me, I had to file a claim for $10,000 to replace all my metal prints because the hot grease hit all my prints, got into the emulsion, and I couldn't save the prints. That cost me the customer insurance $10,000, and I'm pretty sure that they took the truck people to court after that. So can you please move the truck? And they moved the truck because it was not supposed to be there. But it's a bad spot. If you tell them, and hopefully, and I know the logic why she does the layout that way, but I would not want to be in that spot again. Because people coming from one end of the show see the first artist, they see a bunch of sponsors, and they see the artists, and the people coming from that end, as soon as they say sponsor, they're going to turn around. The only way they will walk that way that they want to eat food. But then comes the same people say, oh, but the food trucks are over here. And I say, and I told, yeah, and we're in Minneapolis. There's a bunch of restaurants around us. They don't have to go to the food truck.
Well, but again, going back, fundamentally to me, if they walked their own show and they watched, they would see these kinds of things happening. And if they're at all qualified to be a promoter of an art show or anything, they would see this is unfair to the people that are here. Okay, this just isn't right. So we need to change this. Simple as that. We need to find a better spot.
I don't think they're doing that. I don't think they have time to do that because at a show, there's 1,000 little problems that people have, and they're putting out fires the whole time. So I do remember at St. Louis, yes, they came around, the whole committee came around and judged everybody's booth, but that was a rarity that they would do that. And actually they did it in some form every single day, but generally they're putting out fires like Camille at Coconut Grove. I know this year it was a little testy at the end, but she was handling problems the whole time. And so sometimes it's like that. So only sometimes can you get them to walk around. If they have it all taken care of, and everything's running smoothly, then they can go, hey, let's walk around and let's, you know, figure out, let's see what's going on here. So then they can analyze that. But I found that in most shows they're too busy dealing with little problems.
But
The
don't you
one,
think
the other
they,
thing
having staff that could go around and kind of see how the traffic flow is
sometimes
doing?
they don't have the staff. They don't have the staff to do it. They work in volunteers. They only maybe have 2 or 3 people in the office to do that.
Okay, but then going back to our fundamental thing, why is it that the good shows either don't have the problems that eat up their day, or don't have these bad booth locations, or don't have these same problems?
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to give you a perfect example. Something that she did right, and then this is what happened in Uptown. She put fountains in every single place connected to the hose from the fire hydrant with filters and everything else. So the city came to check out the things on Saturday. Saturday. And one of the lemonade stands was taking the water from the fountain to reload all the things. They unhooked the system to load out the tanks of water, and they cross-contaminated the water fountain. The guy told her flat out 3 things. They're stealing the water because that's the water is not for that. The water is for people to drink into the fountain. All of the fact that you cross-contaminating this, and this can become a health hazard. And it's my job and the line, not yours. So I need to take all the fountains out. He took all the fountains out because some idiot was doing something wrong. And she didn't get a permit for people, for the vendors to get the water in a separate line. So, and she was flabbergasted because she couldn't believe that. But that's not the guy's fault, not her fault. That was the lemonade stand people.
No. But if she learns from that, and next year that's all resolved, so it's not an issue, doesn't eat up any of her time, and it works, then she did good. If it's a problem
Yeah,
next
hopefully.
year, she's just not catching on. But still, why were shows so much stronger before? What's gone wrong fundamentally with art shows and the way they're working?
Another thing that this is
I think
when
we
you
told
need to get to know, is she was saying that the city is making it, and I'm pretty sure it's every city, they're making it harder and harder to put the shows. And
Why?
like at the one in Lake Forest, the lady talked to me yesterday, saying they have so many strict rules now, because it's not even funny. It's really hard to put the show. Now even they don't have the COVID provision, they still have to keep 3 feet between the booths now, because the city don't want people too close, and they don't block in the fire lanes. That's the excuse that they use now. So
Well,
every booth has to be 3 feet apart, which is great for us, but they're making it more difficult for them. They micromanage, and the city's micromanaging everything that they're doing. So it's not as, there's a lot of things going on that we don't know. And that's the only thing that I can say. And if I don't think that none of them have an easy job. And the only thing I can tell you is for us to try to do everything that we can in our end. And hopefully they can do whatever they have to do in the end. And if it doesn't work out, just drop the show. That's the only way to do it, because that's the only way they're going to get it, to be honest with you.
so you don't think that there's any benefit that could be gained from an organization like Anaya to
No.
any organization,
I
artist?
do.
You do, Barry?
I do.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't get 4 artists to agree on one thing, and there'll always be one that
Correct.
says, "Oh, it's a union. We don't want to be in a union." No,
We
it's a
shouldn't be
bunch of people
union long
getting
time
together
ago.
because you have power.
Larry Berman. Just following
We
up.
shouldn't be a union long time ago.
All right.
Huh.
Well, especially when you see the examples. when 23-year-old basketball players are making 30 and 40 million a year because they get together and say, we're not going to play unless we get that, it pays off. I mean, any sports guy, hey, the Screen Actors Guild is on strike and they make plenty of money, and yet they still, but they'll get what they want because they are all together in this. And you can go on, and so don't call yourself a union. Call it, we already have that. It's an association, but but you got to all be on the same page. The problem is if you get, let's say there's a show that it doesn't play ball, that like it's, they do all these things. So let's say you get everybody that did the show to boycott the show. You're going to have the next 200 people going, hey, I never got into that show. I screw those people. I'm going to apply because now I can get in, those suckers, there's no unity there. There's no like togetherness.
You
Look
think
at
it's,
who's talking about. I told you not to do Crasso, right?
Yeah.
Did I
But
tell
it
you
had
not to do
nothing.
Crasso?
It had nothing to do with the situation. It had nothing to do with the situation.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
I did it because Kristen
who's going to
Perkins talked me
organize a
into doing
strike?
Barry, but
it. Oscar.
no, people don't listen to me. They think I'm too radical.
Well, they don't listen to me because they think I'm too radical when they're not listening to what I'm saying.
So
But it's for their own good.
When you stand up for something, you get a ton of criticism. They're not listening to what you're saying. So a lot of times they're just going, oh, he's whining again. They're not listening,
yeah.
the thing is, the frustrating thing, I know for me and I think for others, is that we're not trying to make it better for ourselves personally. That's not what's driving this. It's to make the art show world better so that all of us that want to be artists can succeed, and all the people
That's
out
right.
there that want to buy art can find good art to buy, and that interrelationship grows with time.
For years to come.
Yes.
We're trying to make it better for years to come, not just long after I'm dead,
Right.
which could be tomorrow.
Right, because if we look back and there was no strong art show market out there 30, 40, 50 years ago when we started, we never would have made it as artists. We need this. I think artists wanting to emerge, this is such a beautiful option for them to actually meet the people that are going to buy their work, incorporate it into their lives, become followers of their work, all that kind of stuff. And every once in a while, finding somebody who maybe wants to make a big purchase for a corporate scenario. But this is what drives us. It can be, and we see that it can be better. It's just too often it's not. So what can we do to make it better for everybody? So,
Well, you give me one topic for the next blog that I need to write, Ron.
what's that?
How to make $1 million doing art shows.
Yeah, no, but how to make it better, because if all the things that you guys that were there long before we were, I've only been doing shows 23 years. So all you guys that were out there before, you played through all that landscape. And I'm sure in ways you made it much better for all of us that came along the way. And if it can get stronger, then we could be more successful ourselves. But then, yes, we can leave it better for the next group of people that come along.
You know what, Ron? A lot of those people couldn't make it. Ian, they were really good. They couldn't make enough money.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's any different. I mean, except there are a few people that do really well. And maybe it's more than a few people, but there are people that do really well. And then there's other people that just do okay, that get by, like me, and then there's people that don't do well at all. And those people are not talking because they're embarrassed that they're just hanging in there.
That's one of the
But they're
things
still
that-
applying to shows.
Well, yeah, because because it's intermittent reinforcement, which is the best way to do shaping behavior.
Spinning wheels.
Have one good show, and then 5 years later, you're still hoping that you're going to make that magic again.
Yeah.
But if more shows could get stronger, that magic may exist in a lot more places.
Oh, it would be so great.
Would.
Double the amount of really good shows.
Exactly. And it's not an impossibility. It's just
It's not.
a mindset.
Okay. You talked about, and I agree with this. You talked about, getting sponsors, and I can relate that to Yellow Pages advertising, because their salespeople go around to all the businesses and cold call and sell the advertising.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. You're going around and you're getting sponsors to underwrite the show, and it's the hardest thing to do. And people that run those shows, they're not willing to do that. That's the one thing that they should be doing first. Is the one thing they don't do. They're not willing to do, because it's really hard to knock on a door and walk into a corporate CEO and ask for money. Where that's their job. That's
Right.
what they should be doing to begin with. And then what happens is, because this is we'll take St. Louis and Cindy Lyric. Cindy said that they actually had to turn away advertisers, because if you have a really good show with really good artwork, they're falling all over themselves to associate their product with your art fair.
Amen. Amen.
After a while, it becomes so much easier to get the money.
It
So,
is.
yeah.
And you get to, and then like you're saying, then the show gets to choose which people they want, but they always have a huge landscape of sponsors for the show, because they're setting the landscape that those corporate sponsors want to be part of, want to be in front of. They want to have their businesses, their services, their products there. And the show's doing a great job when they do that, and I think it's very, very doable. It's that mindset to say, what is it that we want to do with this art show? Well, if you have the mindset that a lot of good show promoters have had, it's out there. You can do it. They just need to get the mindset to go like, okay, how do we do this differently to make this work? They can make it work.
Yeah.
And
Well,
artists,
one thing, make the music a little less in your face. Dial that back a little.
yeah, not to interfere with the art show, to make it a compliment to the art show.
Well, like Winter Park, and I know there's other ones. Make them tone it down. They start out at a decent decibel, and then 10 minutes into it, let's crank it up, and then suddenly you're standing in your booth and you can't talk to the person next to you.
No, you can't.
Or require that the music be
Acoustic without amplifications.
or just something that goes along with the artwork, like jazz or something.
Yeah, you want to put me to sleep?
Well,
1812 overture.
yeah, right. With a gun that goes off, the cannon that goes off at the end. Instead of the music pointing at my booth, point that cannon and just go right through the back of my booth and just destroy everything.
Okay.
Well, this has been great. Guys, thank you very much.
Guys, I need to
We go now.
Hey, Barry.
I need to go.
Barry, I'll give you a call.
Now?
Yeah, when we get off.
You have to?
Yeah, I want to tell you something.
Okay. No, I want to go to sleep. I want to take a nap. Okay, give me a call.
All right.
Hey, guys.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.